G'day guys, Happy New Year. Hope Santa was pretty good to you guys and got you some really cool bits for your Scott Bonnars or your cylinder mower this year. So today's video, I'm going to put up a quick video because I see it all the time of people asking questions about they want to get into the cylinder mower game. They want to get a Scott Bonnar, which is awesome, great place to start. They're not sure what they're buying and they want to get it. And look, to be honest, competition is pretty hard to come by these Scott Bonnars at the moment, especially if you want like the Model 45. Pretty much if one goes up for sale, it's going to be gone within minutes. So a few things, you can get stuck with a dud. Doesn't matter what you buy, they're all going to be repairable because the parts these days that you can get for these things and the amount of guys that are making parts and developing new ways of doing things, you can actually get pretty well everything for these machines. But the cost involved with doing that is quite extreme. So you need to know that there are certain things to look for which could save you some money in the long run. I've got a 14-inch Scott Bonnar Model 45 here, twin rail, that I'm going to run through with you guys right now, just so that you know what you're looking at and you can make an informed decision when you're buying these things. Let's have a look. Okay, so here we are. We have the, as I said before, the 14-inch Scott Bonnar Model 45. Now, on the outside, it looks pretty rough, and you're right, it is pretty rough. It's been neglected for a very long time, and someone's thought, I'm sick of kicking this thing around, let's sell it. So it goes up for sale, you rush out to have a look at it, and you want to buy it. So let's start from the top down, okay? The bars, as you can see, are pretty pitted, so they're going to need some work, okay? You're either going to need to paint them, powder coat them, re-chrome them, whatever you want to do. Sometimes you can get the bars looking schmick again, and in this case, I would say you would probably get those back to looking pretty good, okay? You'd probably be happy with the chrome on it, but then you can look at your other options as well, okay? So first of all, you want to have a bit of an idea of what sort of life this has had. So yes, it looks rough, but there's a lot of indicators that can tell you if this thing's been well looked after. So for starters, you want to look down here. As you can see, there's a slot here, and there's the bottom, and there's the top. At the moment, it's sitting, that bolt is sitting right in the middle. That's indicating to me that the reel has about 50% of life left in it because it's sitting halfway. Probably a little bit less once you have the grind, but that's always a good place to start. If you're looking at a machine and this bolt is all the way down the bottom, well, that reel may not have any more life left in it. That is going to be $400 odd to get done. Okay, so you need to replace that if it's no good. Engine, look, I don't even bother with these things. For about $200 or $300, you can buy a new engine. So factor that in if you're willing to spend that when you're buying these machines. Okay, you want to look down here at the clutch. Okay, so this one here, that's a cotter pin there. I can see that it's still fairly tight on the shaft, so that indicates to me that this clutch half is probably going to be okay, and a replacement cotter pin would put in there just to be on the safe side. And also over this side, you've got the clutch cone. Now these often wear out quite badly, so you need to hold that reel in place to stop movement, okay? And then check the play in here. This one's actually pretty good. So generally if you get side to side movement, the keyway in there has either worn out the PDO shaft, which is this part here, which drives your top sprocket, or it's worn out the clutch cone, or sometimes both. In that case, you're gonna have to replace it. Both parts there are sort of the $90 and $40. So that's another cost to factor in. You want to look at overall condition. Your front roller, you're going to want to do that. It's a couple $100, $100 generally. This one's missing the catcher rubbers, which is okay. And a couple, probably $8 or whatever they are. and everything seems to be moving okay. So the spring inside's not seized or anything like that. So having a look here, I can't see any cracks. You really won't know if the rail has cracks until you remove that engine and get rid of some of that old paint and have a look in there to see if there are hairline fractures, which are very common on pretty much every machine. Now the deflector plate has been removed off the front of this motor, off this mower, sorry, and it's here. Look, it's in reasonable condition. You could probably reuse that, but the guys at Old Time Parts make fantastic deflectors, so I'll just replace that. The rear roller, as you can see it better from behind, has still got grooves in it, so you're not going to be skating around on a slope or anything like that. So you want to take that in consideration as well. You can get these things vulcanized, which basically is a rubbery coating and makes it more grippy. So that is an option, but once again, costly. When you're looking at these things, you always want to remove the side cover, as we've done there. Okay, remove that and have a look. This thing is in pretty good condition inside. Okay, you can see there. I would say this machine hasn't had a lot of use and it's still fairly well lubed up. It just needs a good clean. Okay, the sprockets, have a look at all your teeth to make sure they're not worn, because once again, that can be costly. You're looking at about $100 for that sprocket. So that's probably the one that goes the most. It's a given, I reckon, if you're doing one of these, you're going to replace the cork. So you've got a drive cork here in your immediate drive, and you've got your clutch cork in here. So you're going to want to do them. They're a couple of bucks each. Once again, as well, some of these mowers come with a catcher. As you can see, this one's pretty good and it's pretty straight. You could probably fix that up and get it going again. It just depends what you want. If you want a really good restoration, once again, you cannot go past a brand new catcher from the guys down at All Time Parts. So there you go, there's a few things to look for. All these sort of parts, the consumable parts, you're going to want to replace, you know, your slides and all that sort of stuff. But to be honest, this one is actually in reasonable condition, and you can probably get this going a lot cheaper. Where you're going to run into problems is if you start adding up a reel that needs to be done, a front roller assembly that needs to be done, a cracked rail that needs to be done, a new engine, a new clutch, a new catcher, you start running into the $1,000 to $1,500 mark, and that's before you've even looked at any bearings, before you've looked at any paint, before you've looked at anything extra you wanted to throw on it. So that's a brief overview of what to look for when you're buying. There's heaps more tricks and tips to these things, but that's just something that for a quick five-minute look at when you're going to someone's house to have a look at one of these things, that's what you're kind of going to want to look for. And that, if you watch this video and have a look at one of these, you probably know 60% more than what a person going in to have a look at one of these that haven't done any research. So it's always good to remember that you're being mindful of the costs involved when you're buying things, because you might buy it for a few $100, but to get it operational, it's going to take a lot of money to get it going. Cheers.